everyone, and welcome to another video of Linux for absolutely beginners. My name is Tia from DevOps Easy Learning, and today we'll be going through Linux files and directories permission, right? What is that? Because in Linux, sometimes you need to set a proper permission to a file or maybe a directory so that user can access that, right? Now, let us start with, first of all, the files and directory permission. In Linux, we have, let's say you have a file here and that file name is called the test. The file name here is called test. And in here, if you use the ls option, L, which basically stands for long list, you are going to see all this in Linux. What is this? The first hyphen here in front of this permission basically means this is a file in Linux. If this was D here, it means this here, it is a directory. Now, all this here is what? Those are what we call permission in Linux. And the first, this one, it is what belongs to a user, that the permission that belongs to a user. And this thing here, it is the permission that belongs to a group. And this one here, it is the permission that belongs to others. I mean, anybody else that can get access into a Linux server. And we have three types of permission in Linux. The first one, it is read. Another one is write. And another one is called execute. And this one here, it is the number of hard link. Now, here, this is basically the owner of the file. We have the owner here, owners. We can see here that this file here belongs to a user called Weber and the group called support, right? And the file size right now, it is 0. And here we have the last time that the file was modified, which was on October 31st at 11:06. And this is what, when we usually type ls option L, we are going to see in Linux, right? And that is what all those information means. The first portion is permission. The second portion here, it is the number of hard link. The third option here, it is the owner. And the fourth option, it is the file size. And the last one, it is just the time that it was modified. And the last one here, it is just the file or a directory name. Now, as you can see here, we have this read, write, execute. This is the permission of the user. This one here is the permission of the group. And this one here is the permission of others. Now, D here means it is a directory. Hyphen here means it is a file. And those are just called permission. In Linux, we have three types of permission: the read, the write, and execute. Now, that is what I just mentioned. Ownership in Linux. We have a user, we have the group, and others. The first portion, as we explained earlier, right here, it is what we say, this is the permission of the user that own the file. This is the permission of the group that basically own the file. And this is the permission of others on the server, right? And we have a user, group, and others. And this is what we just explained that here. What is a user, a group, and others? I'm not going to read that. Files and directory permission again. We have three types of permission. We have the read, the write and the execute. When we say read permission, what does that mean? That means a user can see the content of maybe a file. A user can go ahead and list the content of the directory if it is a directory. When we say write, what does that mean? That means if this one is a file, that means a user can go ahead, first of all, and open the file. He can go ahead and edit the file, and the user can save. And when we say execute basically means this one, it is a program, like especially a script. If you have a script in Linux, you need to make sure that you give that script execute permission so that it can be run as a program or a script. And we have these three types of permission: the read, write, and execute. Now, in Linux, when we say read, what does that mean? Read basically will represent that by the number 4. The write will represent that by number 2, and execute will represent that by number 1. And this is the only time that we are going to do a little bit of math in Linux, right? And this math is something that even my 2-year daughter can solve this, because the math is just between 4 plus 2 plus 1, which basically equals 7. Example here. We have a file here. This is basically a file because we have hyphen, and the user here have read, write, execute, which means 4 plus 2 plus 1, 7, which means a user have full permission. The group here have read, not write permission, but have execute. And if we take 4, which is read, plus 0, which is write, plus 1, which is execute, this is going to give us 5, right? And others have no permission, and that is why we have 0, 0, 0. It gives us 0, right? And sometimes go for an interview, they can ask you this question: what does the permission 750 mean? The permission 750 means the user have full permission. The group basically have a read and execute permission, and others does not have any permission. What does the permission 77 mean? This means the user have full permission, the group basically also have full permission, and others have full permission. Now, here, how do we change file permission? We use the command change mode, which what I will call that chmod command. And when you say chmod, you can go ahead and write the permission, and when you are done, you go ahead and put the file or the directory name. And there are 2 ways to use this command. There are 2 ways to use the command. We have something called absolute or numeric or octal mode, and also have symbolic mode. Now, what is the difference between symbolic representation and also an absolute representation? Here, when we say read is 4, write is 2, and execute is this, and we can just say chmod, we go ahead and give that. Now, let's see the difference between the absolute, the symbolic mode, and also the absolute mode. Files and directory. Here, we have the octal representation, and if we convert that into a symbolic mode, what will be the difference? In octal representation, if we want to give full permission to a file or a directory, we use 777, and this is the one that is widely used out there. This is the one that a lot of folks know it out there. But this one also, if you want to use a symbolic representation, you use the A, you say plus RWX, which means you want to give full permission to the user, the group, and others. And the result will be this. This belongs to a user, this belongs to a group, and this belongs to others. If you want to write this permission, this will be the octa representation. Now, if you want to see that in symbolic mode, that will be a user plus RWX, which stand for read and write. And group here, it is what? RX, which stand for what? Read, execute. Orders, RX, read, execute. And this will be the result. If you want, this one here, it is octa representation. And here, if you want to use a symbolic mode, you guys can see here that user have read and write. Group have just read, which is 4, orders have read, and that will be the representation. And the 700, I mean, in symbolic mode, we have RWX, read, write, execute. Here, we remove the permission for user and orders, and that will be the result, right? Also, another example, we have the original permission and the symbolic value and the result. Now, what is going on here? If we say RW hyphen, R hyphen, hyphen, R hyphen, hyphen, what does that mean? This basically means we can go ahead and add execute permission at all position. That means user, group, and also execute. Let's say I want to add execute permission, and that is how when we write our bash script, we'll just say chmod plus X. And when we say chmod plus X, it is going to add execute permission for a user that owns the file, the group, and also others, so that we can execute our bash script properly. And that will be the result here. The X, the X, the X, or position here. If we have this, what does that mean? We can go ahead here and add or remove permission. If you just want to go ahead and remove the right at the group level and remove also remove the right and remove the right at the group level and remove read at orders level, I can go ahead and use this symbolic representation, and that will be the result. Here, if you have this and I want to remove at order level, I want to remove the read and execute, I can go ahead and remove the read and execute. You guys will see, because this is at the user level, this one, it is at the group level, this one is order level, and so you can see it disappear. And right now, if you want to remove the execute position at all level here, I can go ahead and use the A minus X and remove everything, right? And that is really cool. That's really cool also. Now, let's see if we still have something left. That we discussed this already, that read is 4, write is 2, execute is 1, the total we have this, and so on. And that's it. Because right here, we just have a couple of examples. We say, okay, 0 means no permission, 1 is read, and how do you represent that? Right here. If you want, this one here, it is the octa mode, and this one here, it's the symbolic mode. 7, read, write, execute. That is how we represent that. RWX. Here, read plus write, RW, and so on. Now, let us go ahead here and kind of jump into our terminal here and see what we can do. Gonna do some hands-on. If you type ls-l, and this is what we're seeing, right? Just one line like this, where we have the permission here, we have the number of link here, we basically have the ownership. Also here, we have the time that this file was last modified, and here this is basically the directory name, because this is a directory. As you guys can see, it is a directory, and this directory basically have the read 1, 2, 3, read, write, execute. Here you have a read and execute, and here basically it just have read and execute, and it is a directory. Why? Because we are seeing the D in front of that. How can we go ahead and change the permission of that file? Let us go ahead first of all and change the permission of this, because let's say this was a script and I want to change the permission. I can go and give execute permission. I can use the chmod command and say plus X. That means I want to add the execute permission at the user level, the group level, and orders. If you go ahead here and say, I want to add execute permission to this, and hit enter and type ls, I need to use the long list, ls-l, and check that again. As you guys can see, execute, and execute. Let's say I want to give the full permission. I can go ahead and type the chmod and use 7777 and hit enter. If you go ahead and use the ls-l, you guys can see that I basically added full permission to this file. All right. Let's say I want to remove permission, like execute permission at all level, and I want to use the symbolic mode. I can go ahead and use the A-X and hit enter. Let's go ahead and check that. If you guys can see here, you guys can see that the execute permission basically disappear, right? The execute permission basically disappear. And let's say we want to change that and put something like maybe 7, maybe it permission 644. We hit enter and check that file again. As you guys can see, 644 will have read, right? And here we have just read also, right? And we can go ahead also and add the execute, right? The execute, if you go ahead and block +X, and if you check that with ls-l, as you guys can see now that it basically added the execute permission, which is like just really simple, right? Let us go ahead here and take this EL deployment and kind of give some full permission. If we go ahead here and say chmod, and we'll say okay 700 and give this EL, that means, and go ahead and check with ls-l. As you guys can see that this is a directory and we have read write execute. Others don't have anything. And if you kind of bomb it again with 7 and we check it again one more time with the ls-l, as you guys can see that the user have full permission, other have the group also have full permission. And if you go ahead and want to give full permission at a user, at a group, and also others, that is cool. I can list this. As you guys can see that the user have full permission, the group also have full permission, and others have full permission, right? It is really simple. You can go ahead and play with this. Use also the PowerPoint, the example that I just mentioned earlier, and you will be able to play with this and have the same result. Either if you are using the symbolic representation or the octa representation, you have the same result. But the one that people usually use a lot, and the one that if somebody asks you a question during an interview, he's basically expecting something with the octa representation that we use numbers like 4, 2, 1. That will equal to 7. Read, write, and execute. That's it for this video, guys. If you like this video, please let us know in the comment below. And also, if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and do so that you will be notified when we publish a new video. Thank you. Bye-bye.